Hello, my name is Katie and welcome to my shed. I've got spots of rain on my glasses, which is probably the most exciting thing that's happened to me all week because it's been so hot and horrible, hasn't it? And today we've finally got a little bit of rain and it's cooling down a bit, which is fab. This week we are talking about how we can use printmaking to create art, even if you think you can't draw. So if you haven't watched them already, go back and watch the last 3 videos talking about how anyone can create and some hints and tips and like cheaty ways of being able to create without having to be an expert drawer. So go back and have a look at those if you haven't already. But this time we're going to look at a few different printing techniques, and this is by no means the only techniques that you can use. There's loads of different things that you can do to print without having to really draw, but I thought we would look at drypoint, which I know we've done before, but I think it's such an accessible way of printing, and you can use stuff that you've got at home. And then we're going to do a little bit of monoprinting as well, and have to try something new with the cat. So she's on a really long lead. I just can't see her. I just need to make sure she's okay. It turns out she wasn't okay. She's got herself tied up around a pole around the back of the shed. You on guard, puss? Okay, I'm going to try something I've not tried before. I don't know why I insist on doing things I've never done before on camera. I guess it's I don't know. Anyway, I've got an offcut. It's a little scrap of pastel card. So I'm going to use that, and then I'm going to glue onto it the inside. Oh, we've gone blurry. Are we back? I was looking at the inside of my coffee cup thing the other day, and I thought, I wonder if I can use that to like dry point with. So I'm going to glue some of this on to the card and then see if we can print with it. It's probably a really stupid idea, but let's have a go. The other thing I've got is a plastic pot, because I'm posh, it's Tesco Finest, but any plastic pot will do. And I'm going to cut out the flat bits so that we can use it to do some dry point with. And then we'll have got dry point plates, 2 lots of dry point plates, or this one maybe is considered more of a collograph, but anyway, 2 printing plates out the dustbin. So you cut them out. So out of that tomato box I've managed to get 5 plates, so one sort of roundy one. I've left the writing on because I thought we'd see what happens there. 2, 3, 4, 5. I prefer to use my X-Cut printing press, but that would not be in the spirit of this video, so I will use the pasta machine. You can watch me struggle. If you've watched the previous videos, you can see it is a struggle. Not because of the pasta machine, because my table ledge isn't deep enough. So when I go to do it, please don't laugh. But also remember that if you do it at home and you've got a table that has got a deeper ledge, you won't have the same troubles that I'm having. Okay. Right, so in the spirit of not being able to draw, I'm going to do some cheating. I've got a photo. Just make sure you print one off that's royalty free. So this is off of Unsplash. But there's loads of different royalty free photography sites that you can download photos off of. And I'm going to just pop a little bit of tape so it doesn't move around. The image is maybe a little bit big for this piece of plastic, but I think it will work okay. Don't forget that it will print in reverse, so don't pick a picture that won't make sense if it's back to front, or if you are going to do that, make sure you flip the picture before you print it. And then all you need is any kind of needle. I've just got this one. This, you can get proper dry point needles, but this one is from an embossing machine. Anything with a point will do. And then you just scratch in your image. I will link previous dry point videos below because I've done a few, mainly because it's such an accessible form of printmaking. So you can use like leftover recycled materials. You could use a needle, you don't need to have a proper thing, any old photo, and a pasta maker. And ink wise, I've got some nice inks that I'll be using, but you can buy ones that are slightly cheaper. And if I'm honest, you could do this rather with an acrylic paint, providing it's maybe got an extender or something like that in, but I probably wouldn't bother. I'd just go and buy a tube of printmaking ink, because you could get a black one which you could use for loads of different things and it would last for years. So it probably cost about £7 maybe for a decent make. Right, let's start printing it up. I did forget to say that the bits that will print will be the scratches, so hopefully you can see on there where the scratches are. I've added a couple little flowers in. Good thing with this as well is if I feel that I haven't put in enough scratches or enough definition, once you've printed one you can just wash it off, add a little bit more to it, and then do it again. The paper to be a little bit wet. I might put a bit more on there so that it's basically so it sucks off the ink off of the plate. But you don't want it too wet that the ink smudges. And if you go back and watch one of my videos, you'll see that often I get that wrong. I've got just a little bit of mount board here. This is just to scrape on the ink, and I've got a selection of inks. So I think I'll go peach. Peach and purple, I think, is what I'm going to use. So let's do those colours. So all we do is we use some of the ink, dab it on. Don't need a whole lot, to be fair. Just a little smear, and then use the bit of card to scrape it in, and then use some gauze to wipe it off and to like make sure it goes into the cracks properly. I'm just going to put a bit of the lilac on. You don't have to mix the colours, by the way. I just quite like that effect, but if you wanted just one colour, that will give a cleaner print. The way I'm doing it here, I will pick up some of the purple in with this peach colour, but I don't mind that. And I use like circular motions because that way I can take off the excess ink without taking off the ink that's in the scratches. If I wanted a very clean print, I would get rid of all of the smudges from the outside, but I quite like a few smudges. Just feel like it adds a little bit of depth to the picture. I'm just going to clean the back off. Honest, it doesn't look like there's a lot of ink in it, but let's give it a go. This is just like cheap felt, like kids crafting felt, which I've cut into a slice and then I taped together with a bit of tape, I've taped together, and that's just to help it get through the rollers on the pasta maker easier, otherwise it tends to crumple up. Make sure you put this ink side down. One last check, make sure there's no fingerprints or anything. do wonder if this paper just needs to be dried off a tiny bit. Just taking the excess off with this newsprint. It's probably poor practice, but do it anyway. Then we'll put that in central. It's going to be very pale, you'll see now. I think either I've used the wrong colours, I just haven't inked it up enough. Have a look. I don't have high hopes, I'm not gonna lie. There we go, and this is the most subtle print I've ever done. There we go. As it dries, you might see it a little bit more. I'm breaking printmaking rule, and I'm doing it again, but on the back of the other print, which is probably some sort of cardinal sin. But I've just gone with a slightly darker colour because I don't think that was dark enough. See if this one's any better. I suspect not. I think that I need to scratch it deeper, but let's see. Oh no, that is a bit better actually. There we go. But can you see where the scratches are deeper, it's much darker. I think I just need to do deeper scratches on these side flowers, but the little bunny's quite cute, isn't he? And that one was just too light. So there we go, we'll leave that to dry. But that is easy, don't need to draw printmaking that you can do at home. So this one is a bit different. Oh, you're a bit wonky, aren't you? A bit different because I can't trace with this. I probably could, using one of those methods that we talked about last week with by transferring an image, but I'm not going to worry for this one because we've done all of those paintings of hollyhocks the other day. I'm just going to do some hollyhocks, but very roughly. So I don't want you to worry about feeling like you've got to draw. So this is just sort of circles and basic floral shapes. I'm sure all of you can do sort of circular shapes and maybe a sausage shape without too much challenge. We did on the bottom here. Should just do some grassy shapes like this. Nothing too technical, basically M's and W sort of shape, which I'm sure even a non-drawer can do. Right. Leave that. Let's see how this one turned out. I think the paper was a bit wet. At least it was. And the glue glued. So I think we can say this one is not a success. I mean, it might have been if I hadn't, because it's only on this bit. Let me just dab it down. If I dab down the loose bits, once that dries, we might not see it. The bird's cute though. Okay, so I'm going to use, I've got this glass chopping board, but you don't need this, you just need something completely flat, but my table is not flat because it's covered in lumps and bumps and all sorts of things like that. I've got a roller, that's because I own a roller, but if you don't, you can paint your ink down, or you can use paints if it's not so hot as it is today. It would dry straight away if I did it with paint, but you don't have to have fancy inks to do this. But it helps just because they don't dry as quickly. I'm using the Cranfield Caligo Safe Wash Relief inks. These are my favourite inks because they act like an oil-based ink, but they wash off like a water-based. And I'm going to use the pale violet just because there's lots of purple flowers out today, and yeah, that was my inspiration. I've got this photo, which I've printed out onto cheap copier paper. This is one of Lou's photos, but make sure you do use something that's royalty free. If you don't have a printer, you could cut out a magazine photo or something from a paper, or you can draw your own, but we're talking about non-drawing techniques today. And I've got some thin paper. You can, this one is I don't actually know what type it is, but it's very thin bamboo paper. But you can get A4 white pads from places like, you know, pound shops and things like that. And they are quite thin, and because they're thin, they're really good for printmaking. So I'm going to roll out the ink. I'm going to put my paper on top of it, then the picture on top of that, and then we'll draw it. So I'll pop you on time lapse while I'm rolling it out, and then we'll talk again in a minute. If I was feeling clever, I could have done that with two colours and done like a little blend, but I was not. Now this paper's got a rough side and a smooth side. I'm going to put it with rough side down. I'm just going to lay that on, but you don't want to put any pressure on it, because wherever the ink and the paper touch, you'll get a mark. And then I'm going to put this on here. Could do with a little bit of tape just to make sure it doesn't blow away and move. And then we're going to trace with this pencil. There you go. So that's printing without any, I mean, obviously we've drawn the marks, but we haven't had to design it. And what you could do now is you could lay another, in fact, let's do it. We'll lay another piece of paper on top of that. Let's tear this in half. And then we'll get like the opposite kind of image. This time I'm still going to go rough side down, but this time I'm going to press all of it on, but where we've taken off the ink we won't get the image. Does that make sense? Because we've already removed the ink with the last picture. Let's see if this has worked or not. I think we need to press it a bit harder. Okay. This is my lino tool. Just press it a bit harder. It might be that it's just too delicate a drawing. Oh, there we go. So there you go. So that's that. Okay, so now we'll do another one, but please remember, as I've said before, it will be in reverse. So I'm going to put the rough side down, and then I'm going to do just some simple daisy flower shapes, which any of you, I am sure, could draw. We're going on all of them apparently, so I just can't stop myself. Okay, super easy little doodle. I might put a frame around it just because I can. Got a little scalloped edge. I'm using just a hard pencil, so an HB pencil, normal pencil. Okay. I'm gonna use the rubber. Oh, that makes a horrible noise. No, I'm not gonna do that. I want to just press into these middle of the daisies. But that rubber is horrible. Okay. And then let's see what happens when I pull it off. Hopefully something. There we go. So it's really simple monoprinting that is fun and artistic, but doesn't really involve much drawing. Okay, so I thought we'd quickly just look at what we've done this week. So started off with the dry point, this one, which this isn't going to go well with the cat, is it? This one which didn't come out very well just because I hadn't inked up enough, and then this one which came out much better. It is really faint and it's kind of subtle, but I really love that. Not everything, I mean, I know my paintings are all very bold and over the top, but I don't feel like everything has to be smack you in the face. And then we did this one. I don't even know if I showed this one, but this one was the one using the coffee packs and some card, which is proper cute. Not sure if I've kept that or not. And then the monoprints were, which was the first one? This one was the first monoprint, which was the daisies. I love that. I just think it's super simple. And if you popped a mount around that, you could either make it into a really nice card, or just like a simple painting. Not painting, print. And then that one was the one with the leftovers. So I just rubbed some paper over the remnants of the last one. Upside down, Katie. There we go. It's quite hard to see because it's the paper's so thin. And then this one, which I think is really cute, with my usual design on birds and flowers. I just stood up to get a book and someone's nicked my chair. Nicked my chair. Are you a bit wet? It is raining. It's lovely, isn't it? Right. Let's find this book. I think I might have to take her in. I'm going to take her in. I'm not going to get attacked by the cat. So I was saying, I think printmaking is the most accessible form. Not just the techniques I've showed you, but even things like getting a piece of cardboard and gluing some string on it, or gluing your leaves on it to make relief images. The other stuff that I think is really accessible, if you don't want to go and buy loads of expensive things, is the children's foam sheets. So let me grab one and show you. So this stuff, this foam sheet, you can probably pick a pack of this up for about £1, and that is so easy to cut just with a pair of scissors and glue it onto a piece of cardboard, and then you can print from that. The other thing that people use is the jelly plates. I haven't got a proper jelly plate, but I have got a silicone mat which works just as well, and with this you can just use acrylic paint. You don't need inks or anything like that. Maybe I'll show you some of this in the future, but there's loads of videos on jelly plate printing, so if you look that up, that's another form of printmaking you can do. But yeah, I'm not here to give you a whole beginner's class to printmaking. It was just to show you a few techniques that you can use. Otherwise we'd be here forever, wouldn't we? So yeah, there are loads of different techniques you can use, and I think all really accessible, and you definitely don't have to be able to draw for most of them, because you can use found objects and print from them. Think about, as kids we would do potato printing, or you'd get like the end of a loo roll and put that into a shape. All the birds happy. Yeah, okay. He's probably happy that the cat's gone in, like I am. Yes, okay. So let me know if you've done any printmaking before, and what techniques did you use, and were you pleased with the effects, and was it something that you could do from home with little or no material or drawing ability? Because I think that's the key here. We want people to feel that they can create some art without having to draw masterpieces. I'm not sure if there's any other things you'd like me to explore in this series. I was planning on just doing the 4 videos, but if there is something else that you want me to look at, then let me know in the comments and I will do a video on that. Otherwise we'll get back to the normal videos of just me faffing around the shed painting. I need to thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, please consider pressing the thumbs up button and subscribing. We're about, I don't know, 12 people away from 200. My daughter will be very pleased because she can get a takeaway every 100 people that subscribe. So if it gets 200, she gets a Chinese takeaway. Yeah, have a great week and I will see you soon.